Part 1. The fear of the unknown. You think fear is about danger, about teeth and claws and headlines, but the deepest fear arrives long before danger appears. It arrives as a question with no answer. What will happen to me? Will this choice ruin my life? Will the person I love stay or go? Will the floor hold or vanish? The unknown is not empty. It is a pressure. It crowds the room with invisible possibilities, each one a small catastrophe rehearsing itself in your mind. Your nervous system hates blank spaces, so it fills them with worst cases, with ghosts, with the thing you cannot see but already suffer. You call it overthinking. It isn't. It's a survival algorithm misfiring in modern time. Once, guessing wrong meant death. Now, guessing endlessly means paralysis. You try to predict enough to feel safe, but prediction never ends, and safety never arrives. Notice how you bargain with uncertainty. You collect information as if facts could smother the void. You ask one more friend, read one more review, open one more tab. Knowledge grows, and somehow so does doubt, because each answer breeds a new branch of what if. The unknown does not shrink, it multiplies. So you cling to routines, to plans, to numbers, to dates. You give the future a shape, any shape, so the abyss looks like a hallway. But plans are only drawings on water. Time moves its hand, and they blur. Here is the cruelty. The unknown is not an obstacle in your path. It is the path. Every moment is a first time. You have never been this age, on this day, in this decision, with these stakes. You are always stepping into a room you have never entered. You think certainty would save you. It wouldn't. Certainty would lock you inside a single script and call it life. The unknown, for all its terror, is where living actually happens. Not where you die, but where you are forced to choose. Listen to the truth you try not to hear. You cannot make the future safe. You can only make yourself brave. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to outsource your life to guesses. It is the quiet act of moving with incomplete maps. It is the willingness to feel the tremor and step anyway. Stand at the edge. Let the darkness stay dark. Name nothing. Then take one step and let the floor introduce itself. Part 2. The fear of death. You say you fear dying, but what you fear is erasure, not pain, oblivion. Not the last breath, the absence of anyone who could breathe. Death is not an event at the end of life. It is the shadow written into every moment of it. Your cells read the script. Your habits try to forget it. You buy time with routines, vitamins, calendars, promises, and time keeps its own account, senses. You build defenses, euphemisms that soften the edge, rituals that give shape to the void, distractions that fill the hours so the silence can't get in. You plan as if planning could convince the clock to wait. You make legacies, children, work, names etched in things that outlast you, as if endurance by proxy were survival. But the fear returns at night, when everything is honest. The mind circles an image it cannot picture, yourself missing. No room, no light, no watcher, just the world continuing without you, as it always has, as it always will. Here is what makes the fear so sharp. You cannot compare life with death, because there is no you to stand on both sides. You will never experience being dead. You will only experience the approach, the narrowing corridor, the sound of footsteps you know are yours. Fear belongs to the living. Death does not feel like anything at all. So why does it still rule you? Because death threatens meaning. If everything ends, what is this for? If the book closes, does the story matter? You try to answer with purpose, with faith, with duty. But the answers leak, the questions remain. There is another way to hold it. Do not ask death for permission to live. Let mortality be the boundary that sharpens the image. A limited canvas is not a curse. It is what makes the art decisive. A day that ends is a day that can be chosen. This is not comfort. It will not quiet the heartbeat you hear when the room goes still. But it will keep you from bargaining with a judge who never speaks. Practice small deaths. End conversations when they are finished. Let seasons change without dragging the last one forward. Grieve cleanly. Release what tries to stay past its time. You do not conquer death. You learn to stop dying in advance. Stand where the fear rises. Feel it fully. Then move while feeling it. Cook, write, call, forgive. Begin. Every act is a sentence against nothingness. When the last moment comes, it will come as all moments do. Once. Until then, refuse to live as a rehearsal for the end. Let death keep the future. Keep the day. Part 3. The fear of meaninglessness. You want your life to add up. A clean equation. Effort, purpose, suffering, redemption. But some nights the math breaks. The things you do blur, the days repeat, and the question arrives without decorum. What is any of this for? Meaninglessness is not a theory. It's a temperature drop. You feel it when work becomes motion without consequence, when joy expires mid-laugh, when silence makes every plan sound like acting. You try to outrun it with bigger narratives, callings, movements, grand designs. You promise yourself that the next achievement will bind the pages together. It doesn't. Victories celebrate themselves and go home early. Trophies are excellent at collecting dust. Here is the sting. Meaning is not stored anywhere. You cannot dig it up like ore or inherit it like a deed. There is no global ledger keeping score. So why does the fear bite so hard? Because you confuse coherence with worth. You think your life must be a single story to matter. But stories are stitched after the fact. Living is always ragged at the edges. You bargain with abstractions, humanity, history, eternity, but abstractions do not hold your hand. They will not look up when you're gone. Try a narrower instrument. Meaning at human scale is not cosmic. It is local, provisional, perishable. It forms where attention meets responsibility. The meal cooked, the debt owned, the apology delivered, the skill honed until it changes someone else's day. No, this will not silence the void. The void does not negotiate. But small meanings are not counterfeit. They are the only kind that survive contact with reality. They rot if neglected. They multiply if fed. Stop asking your life to be about something eternal. Ask it to be for someone, for something, now. Build a craft that outlives your mood. Keep promises you do not feel like keeping. Make one corner of the room undeniable. You fear that without a final answer, nothing matters. The truth is ruder. Without a first act, nothing begins. Meaning appears in the verb, not the noun, in the doing, not the name you give it. Let your days resist entropy in small, precise ways. Repair what breaks within reach. Tell one true sentence when lies would be prettier. Carry something heavy that isn't yours. This is not a cure. There isn't one. But when the question returns, and it will, you'll have a list of quiet facts, not arguments. A person less lonely, a task well made, a promise intact. The void remains, so do these. Part 4. The fear of freedom. Freedom is advertised as sweetness. It tastes more like metal. You are told you can be anything, but anything is a cliff. Every open path is a demand to decide. Every decision is a door that locks behind you. This is why freedom frightens more than cages. Cages explain themselves. Rules absorb blame. When someone tells you what to do, your failure belongs to them. When no one tells you, your failure has your name carved into it. You feel the tremor before choices that matter. Career, city, partner, children, leaving, staying. You stand before futures like a person in a hall of mirrors, all versions of you staring back, asking to be born. You can choose only one. The others become ghosts that follow. So you reach for substitutes. You ask for certainty to choose in your place. Horoscopes, algorithms, gurus, what successful people do, the numbing logic of it's what anyone would choose. You call it research. Sometimes it's camouflage, a way to hide the terror of authorship. Here is the cruelty. Even refusal is a choice with consequences. Delay reshapes a life as surely as action. Silence takes a side. You cannot opt out of authorship without writing a draft in invisible ink. No wonder nostalgia glows so warmly. The past is the one landscape where choices look inevitable. No wonder envy corrodes. Every life you study seems spared from your losses because you cannot see their ghosts. You think you fear the wrong choice. Often you fear owning any choice at all. If freedom cannot be escaped, it can be handled. Start by accepting the death that every yes requires. Name the futures you are willing to bury. Grieve them on purpose. You will breathe easier once the funeral is honest. Choose at human scale. Not the best life, but the next right task. Give yourself constraints you pick, budgets, hours, disciplines, so your limits become tools, not prisons. Write rules you are willing to break consciously, not unconsciously. I don't check messages before I create. I leave when the respect ends. I tell the truth even when it costs. Trade optimization for ownership. A perfect choice is a mirage that keeps you wandering. A owned choice grows roots. Commit long enough for reality to answer. The craft improves, the relationship reveals itself, the path earns or loses your loyalty in facts, not fantasies. Expect regret. Carry it without letting it steer. Regret is a receipt for paid possibilities, not proof of error. Freedom will not stop shaking. It is supposed to shake, but your hands can steady. Stand in the hallway, pick a door while you're still afraid, close it gently, then make what is inside that room undeniable. Part 5. The fear of time. Time doesn't pass. You do. Clocks pretend to measure an outside river, steady and fair. But what you fear is not time itself. It's the way it writes itself into your body, your choices, your face. You fear that while you were busy rehearsing, the play began without you. You fear you started too late or used your best years on the wrong script. Time is cruel in two ways. It goes one direction, and it doesn't negotiate. You try anyway. You hoard calendars, optimize mornings, read hacks that promise extra hours like coupons. But hours don't store. Unspent, they spoil. Time is not a bank account, it's a fuse. Irreversibility makes the fear sharp. A word spoken cannot be unsaid. A year lived cannot be unlived. Choices harden into history while you're still deciding if you meant them. So you measure yourself against people who seem to beat the clock. Early success, early love, early clarity. Comparison turns time into a scoreboard you always lose. You forget survivorship bias. Cemeteries of quiet failures don't post highlight reels. You also fear slowness. Stillness feels like theft when the fuse is burning. But frantic motion is not the same as life. You can burn down a decade sprinting in circles. What helps is not speed, but aim. Not more hours, but cleaner ones. Own attention, not time. You cannot command the clock. You can command what your minutes are allowed to touch. Give your best state to what you claim matters. Let the leftovers handle the noise. Work in finished loops, a page you can read aloud, a conversation that actually ended, a room restored to order. Closed circles resist the fog that makes months evaporate. Trade someday for dates. Vagueness is where intentions go to die. Name the day, the hour, the place, or admit you don't want it enough to schedule it. Use seasons, not streaks. Streaks break and breed shame. Seasons respect weather. You can be in a strength season, a learning season, a recovery season, each with different metrics for enough. Accept lateness without letting it rule you. Late is real. Late is expensive. Late is not fatal. If the second best time is now, let now be second best and begin. Practice endings on purpose. Stop scrolling mid-pleasure. Leave while the party is still warm. Close your laptop when the paragraph is strong. Training clean endings makes mortality less abstract. Time will keep its terms. You will not make more of it by fearing it harder, but you can make more of you inside it. Pick a span, 25 focused minutes, 3 quiet hours, 1 undistracted afternoon. Give it to something that can look back at you when it's over and say, we were not wasted. The clock won't thank you. The work will. And at night, the fuse will still be burning, but you'll sleep beside something that exists. Part 6. Part 6. The fear of solitude. You can be surrounded and still feel it. The cold outline of yourself. The room is full, the feed is loud, but none of it gets inside. Solitude is not the absence of people, it's the presence of a boundary you cannot cross. You fear it because consciousness is a locked room. You never leave your own head. You can describe your pain, mime your joy, write it, sing it, scream it, but no one else will ever feel it as you do. Even love stops at skin. Even empathy is translation, so you keep the noise on. Podcasts in the shower, music for the walk, a screen for every pause. You confuse contact with connection because the silence between them is where the fear waits. The thought that if the world went quiet, you would hear how alone you are. Solitude exposes 2 hungers at once, to be known and to be spared. You want someone to see every corner of you and not turn away. You also want to hide the unflattering rooms. You want to be understood without being vulnerable. This is why the timeline is safer than the table. A post is a costume that never asks for your voice to shake. Here's the private terror. If no one sees you, do you exist in full? Recognition feels like oxygen. A gaze can assemble you. Indifference can unmake you. The risk is obvious. When your mirror lives in other people's eyes, one averted glance can shatter your face. You try to solve solitude with quantity. More chats, more threads, more gatherings. But loneliness is qualitative. A mismatch between what is spoken and what you most need to say. Crowds amplify the mismatch. There is another way to hold it. Treat solitude not as a void to escape, but as a studio to enter. Give it furniture, a question you're willing to answer honestly, a craft that resists multitasking, a page that expects ink, a floor that expects sweat. Solitude without a task becomes rumination. Solitude with a task becomes authorship. Schedule it like you would oxygen. not as punishment, but as hygiene. 15 unbroken minutes with nothing pulling at you. A walk without headphones long enough for your thoughts to finish their sentences. A room you leave cleaner than you found it. Small proofs that being alone does not eat you. It feeds what is starving in crowds. Practice disclosures that cost you something with someone who has earned them. One true sentence is worth 100 performances. If it lands, solitude becomes lighter because a piece of it now lives in shared air. If it doesn't, you learn which rooms cannot hold you and stop pounding on their doors. You will not escape the locked room of your mind, but you can open the window. Let your solitude be specific, not vague. Chosen, not default. Filled, not padded. Let it make you a better host to yourself so that company becomes preference, not anesthesia. When the noise cuts out, the outline will appear again. Do not panic. Light a small task inside its borders. Breathe until the furniture shows. Then sit and make something that couldn't exist with anyone else in the room. Part 5. The fear of time. Time doesn't pass. You do. Clocks pretend to measure an outside river, steady and fair. But what you fear is not time itself. It's the way it writes itself into your body, your choices, your face. You fear that while you were busy rehearsing, the play began without you. You fear you started too late or used your best years on the wrong script. Time is cruel in 2 ways. It goes one direction, and it doesn't negotiate. You try anyway. You hoard calendars, optimize mornings, read hacks that promise extra hours like coupons. But hours don't store. Unspent, they spoil. Time is not a bank account, it's a fuse. Irreversibility makes the fear sharp. A word spoken cannot be unsaid. A year lived cannot be unlived. Choices harden into history while you're still deciding if you meant them. So you measure yourself against people who seem to beat the clock. Early success, early love, early clarity. Comparison turns time into a scoreboard you always lose. You forget survivorship bias. Cemeteries of quiet failures don't post highlight reels. You also fear slowness. Stillness feels like theft when the fuse is burning. But frantic motion is not the same as life. You can burn down a decade sprinting in circles. What helps is not speed, but aim. Not more hours, but cleaner ones. Own attention, not time. You cannot command the clock. You can command what your minutes are allowed to touch. Give your best state to what you claim matters. Let the leftovers handle the noise. Work in finished loops. A page you can read aloud. A conversation that actually ended. A room restored to order. Closed circles resist the fog that makes months evaporate. Trade someday for dates. Vagueness is where intentions go to die. Name the day, the hour, the place, or admit you don't want it enough to schedule it. Use seasons, not streaks. Streaks break and breed shame. Seasons respect weather. You can be in a strength season, a learning season, a recovery season, each with different metrics for enough. Accept lateness without letting it rule you. Late is real. Late is expensive. Late is not fatal. If the second best time is now, let now be second best and begin. Practice endings on purpose. Stop scrolling mid-pleasure. Leave while the party is still warm. Close your laptop when the paragraph is strong. Training clean endings makes mortality less abstract. Time will keep its terms. You will not make more of it by fearing it harder, but you can make more of you inside it. Pick a span. 25 focused minutes, 3 quiet hours, 1 undistracted afternoon. Give it to something that can look back at you when it's over and say, "We were not wasted." The clock won't thank you. The work will. And at night, the fuse will still be burning, but you'll sleep beside something that exists. Part 6. The fear of solitude. You can be surrounded and still feel it, the cold outline of yourself. The room is full, the feed is loud, but none of it gets inside. Solitude is not the absence of people. It's the presence of a boundary you cannot cross. You fear it because consciousness is a locked room. You never leave your own head. You can describe your pain, mime your joy, write it, sing it, scream it, but no one else will ever feel it as you do. Even love stops at skin. Even empathy is translation. So you keep the noise on. Podcasts in the shower, music for the walk, a screen for every pause. You confuse contact connection because the silence between them is where the fear waits. The thought that if the world went quiet, you would hear how alone you are. Solitude exposes 2 hungers at once, to be known and to be spared. You want someone to see every corner of you and not turn away. You also want to hide the unflattering rooms. You want to be understood without being vulnerable. This is why the timeline is safer than the table. A post is a costume that never asks for your voice to shake. Here's the private terror. If no one sees you, do you exist in full? Recognition feels like oxygen. A gaze can assemble you. Indifference can unmake you. The risk is obvious. When your mirror lives in other people's eyes, one averted glance can shatter your face. You try to solve solitude with quantity. More chats, more threads, more gatherings. But loneliness is qualitative, a mismatch between what is spoken and what you most need to say. Crowds amplify the mismatch. There is another way to hold it. Treat solitude not as a void to escape, but as a studio to enter. Give it furniture, a question you're willing to answer honestly, a craft that resists multitasking, a page that expects ink, a floor that expects sweat. Solitude without a task becomes rumination. Solitude with a task becomes authorship. Schedule it like you would oxygen, not as punishment, but as hygiene. 15 unbroken minutes with nothing pulling at you. A walk without headphones long enough for your thoughts to finish their sentences. A room you leave cleaner than you found it. Small proofs that being alone does not eat you. It feeds what is starving in crowds. Practice disclosures that cost you something with someone who has earned them. One true sentence is worth 100 performances. If it lands, solitude becomes lighter because a piece of it now lives in shared air. If it doesn't, you learn which rooms cannot hold you and stop pounding on their doors. You will not escape the locked room of your mind, but you can open the window. Let your solitude be specific, not vague. Chosen, not default. Filled, not padded. Let it make you a better host to yourself so that company becomes preference, not anesthesia. When the noise cuts out, the outline will appear again. Do not panic. Light a small task inside its borders. Breathe until the furniture shows. Then sit and make something that couldn't exist with anyone else in the room. Part 7. The Fear of the Other. You are a social animal with private terror, being seen and sentenced. Other people are mirrors and knives. Their eyes assemble you. Their words can unmake you. A glance can crown you. A shrug can erase you. This isn't vanity. It's survival residue. For most of history, exile meant death. Your nervous system still treats disapproval like a cliff, so you learn to bend. You smooth your edges. You rehearse reactions in advance. You post the safest version of yourself and call it authenticity. Applause becomes oxygen. Silence feels like drowning. Here is the trap. The crowd is a shifting algorithm. Today's virtue is tomorrow's sin. You cannot win a game whose rules are rewritten mid-play. You will spend yourself sanding down to nothing. You overcorrect. You hide or you perform harder. People-pleasing looks kind. It is a disguise for fear. Performing looks brave. It is a bid for control. Both are negotiations with a jury that never adjourns. What you truly fear isn't dislike, it's humiliation, the public collapse of your story. Shame is social fire. It burns long after the room forgets your name. There is another way to stand under the gaze. Choose your judges on purpose. Most eyes are noise. A few are instruments. Pick the handful whose standards you respect and whose lives bear the weight of those standards. Serve their feedback. Ignore the weather. Replace applause with an inner scorecard. Did I keep the promise? Did I tell the truth? Did I do the work as well as I currently can? A craft is a better mirror than a crowd. Practice micro-exposures to the fear you avoid. Say the sentence without 10 disclaimers. Share the draft before you feel invincible. Ask for the meeting you're sure will say no. Let your skin learn that being misread is survivable. Build clean boundaries. No is an immune system, not a sin. Leave rooms that require self-betrayal to stay. Respect cannot be negotiated after it's gone. Expect misinterpretation. Clarity is your job. Agreement isn't. When you are judged, separate verdict from venue. A closed door can be selection, not sentence. Wrong rooms make everyone worse. Make something undeniable. Skill decouples you from whim. When the work is real, opinions sort themselves. The right people come closer, the wrong ones get bored. You will never escape the other. We are each other's weather, but you can refuse to be a windsock. Stand where the eyes land. Let your hands keep moving. Let your words belong to your standards, not their temperature. Be readable, not bendable. Be kind, not compliant. Be seen, and do not bargain for permission to exist. Part 8, the fear of loss. You fear pain after loss, but what you really fear is the truth inside it. Nothing you love is guaranteed to stay. People leave, Bodies fail, fortunes tilt, roles expire, rooms change their minds about you. Even the version of yourself you liked grows old and moves out. So you try to prepay grief by worrying in advance. You rehearse funerals for things still alive. You hold tight as proof of care, knuckles white, breath thin. Control masquerades as devotion. It doesn't work. Vigil does not grant veto. The universe does not trade certainty for your effort. All you buy with dread is a life half lived before the loss even happens. Loss has two edges, the thing gone and the meaning you hung on it. When a person leaves, a role dies too. Partner, parent, prodigy, rector. When a job disappears, status goes with it. Competence, relevance, a door that opened when you knocked. You grieve the object and the story at once. No wonder it fells you. Here is the cruel accounting. Love writes a debt payable in grief. If you refuse the debt, you never love. If you pay it early, you never live. There is another posture, stewardship, not ownership. You do not own your child, your lover, your health, your days. You get to carry them for a while. Care is what you owe. Control is not what you're owed. Practice losing without abandoning. Let small things go on purpose, an argument you could win, a plan that no longer fits the weather, a possession that owns you back. Train the hand to open so it knows how when the heavy moment comes. Say true things while the door is still open. Leave fewer sentences for cemeteries. Grieve inside the relationship, not only after it ends. Acknowledge changes as they happen. Update the story aloud. Presence is the only hedge against regret. Diversify where your meaning lives. If one pillar falls, a role, a talent, a status. Let the house stand on others, character, craft, friendships that tell you the truth, a private life no crowd can cancel. Identity redundancy is not cowardice, it's structural integrity. Invest in what loss cannot entirely erase. Skill practiced into your hands, kindness already delivered, promises kept on time, beauty built in public where it seeds other lives. These do not make you loss-proof. They make loss less total. When the siren of dread starts up, answer with specifics. What exactly might be lost? What is inside your control to honor it now? What will you do the day after besides collapse? Write the moves. Let a plan hold you when feelings can't. You cannot out-engineer departure. You can keep from abandoning what you love while it's still here. Hold softly, not loosely. Name the gift as long as it visits. When it goes, let your grief prove that you lived with it awake, not clenched, not sleeping. Awake. Part 9. The fear of change. You say you want growth. You also want your life to stay recognizable. These desires collide. Change threatens three things at once: your routines, your status, and your story. Lose any one and you wobble. Lose all three and you feel erased. The brain bargains for sameness. Homeostasis is its religion. It will argue for the current discomfort you know over the uncertainty you don't. It calls this wisdom. Often it is fear in costume. You delay upgrades because they carry funerals. A new role means the old competence vanishes. A move means your easy map is gone. A breakup means the person you were together must die. Every beginning asks for an ending you don't want to hold. You imagine you can keep the past and take the future. You can't. Hands that won't release cannot receive. Here is the quiet cost of resisting. Stagnation rots reputation from the inside. The world keeps moving. You keep explaining. Temporary arrangements harden into identity. Soon the fear of changing is smaller than the pain of staying, and you change anyway, exhausted, late, and bitter. There is another posture, molting on purpose. Schedule renewals before crisis forces them. Update your rules each season. What you say yes to, what you refuse, what you measure. Retire tactics that worked at a smaller size. Promote principles that scale. Run reversible experiments. Small bets lower terror. Change one variable at a time. Hours, audience, tool, offer. Keep a log so anxiety doesn't rewrite history when results are slow. Name the grief explicitly. List what change will cost: status, ease, predictability, a familiar version of you. Hold a brief funeral. Thank what got you here. Closing rites make open doors usable. Build a change budget, time, money, energy you set aside for learning curves and messy middles. Without margin, every surprise feels like a verdict. Beware the museum of self. I'm just the kind of person who is a velvet rope around a shrinking exhibit. Let character be the through line. Let methods rotate. Use two clocks. The slow clock asks, will this matter in 5 years? The fast clock asks, what can I do by Friday that proves we moved? Together they prevent drift and panic. Expect backlash from the ecosystem that benefits when you stay the same, inside and outside. Habit will argue. Some relationships will prefer your previous settings. Let resistance be weather, not law. Change will still scare you, it should, but fear is not a stop sign, it is a landmark. When the tremor starts, ask 3 questions. What am I keeping on purpose? What am I releasing on purpose? What am I testing next on purpose? Then move while afraid. Let the old you thank you for the shelter. Let the new you earn the room. Part 10. The fear of insignificance. The numbers are loud. Billions alive, billions dead, trillions more moments than anyone can hold. You feel it when the timeline scrolls faster than your pulse. You are a grain of dust, arguing with a storm. Insignificance is not a statistic, it's a temperature. You sense it when your work vanishes into silence, when your name mispronounced feels like proof you could be deleted with no ripple. When you imagine a world that goes on unbothered after you're gone, the accurate imagination. So you build a scoreboard, followers, titles, square footage, views, plaques. You tell yourself that if the numbers go up, you'll be undeniable. They do. You don't. The graph spikes, then the room returns to normal. Here is the cruelty. The universe does not keep favorites. Stones forget the names carved into them, even legends thin to trivia. Household names survive only in houses that no longer stand. We die twice, when the body stops and when the last mouth stops saying our name. For most of us, the second death arrives soon and softly. Chasing bigness becomes its own erasure. You widen until you are thin. You become famous to strangers and a stranger to the few who wanted you whole. You optimize for notice and stop being worth noticing up close. There is a better geometry than bigness, density. Trade breadth for weight. Let significance be measured in the thickness of what you make within reach, not the radius of people who glance at it. Choose witnesses over audiences. An audience claps and forgets. A witness can testify. Pick the handful whose lives intersect yours deeply enough to feel the difference when you keep a promise, finish a craft, tell a hard truth. Serve those circles until the changes are physical. A room repaired, a person steadier, a system that runs when you're not there. Build an inner ledger of the undeniable. Hours of honest practice. Debts cleared and receipts kept. Meals that gathered the lonely. Tools left sharper than you found them. One skill taught so well it outlives you in other hands. Make small, heavy things. A letter that will be read twice, a bench that will not wobble. A process someone else can trust at 2 a.m., anonymous kindness that can't be traced back to you, the kind that is real because it is not a performance. Plan for erasure without letting it cheapen the day. Assume the future will forget you and act as if that were permission, to stop auditioning for posterity, to stop mortgaging the present to imaginary statues, to put all the weight into the work and the people in the room. Keep 2 questions close. What can I do here that would be hard to undo? Who becomes more themselves because I am consistent? The fear will not vanish. It shouldn't. It keeps you honest about scale, but it does not have to paralyze you. You may never matter to the world. You can matter in a world in a radius you can touch. And while the sky stays indifferent, something on the ground will be different. A person, a craft, a corner of time that would not have existed without you. The storm won't notice. The storm will still be changed. Part 11, the fear of suffering. You do not fear pain in theory. You fear this pain arriving without your consent and refusing to leave. You fear nights that do not end, diagnoses that don't negotiate, grief that makes ordinary tasks feel like mountain work. You fear suffering that seems pointless, hurt with no harvest. Pain is a body event. Suffering is a meaning event. Pain says, here. Suffering says, forever. Why me? What if this never stops? You will meet pain. Suffering is the story that tries to swallow you after the knock. Your mind bargains. If I am good, I will be spared. If I prepare hard enough, I will be skipped. If I worry in advance, the blow will land softer. Reality does not sign these contracts. The invoice arrives anyway, and now you owe interest for all the rehearsal. You reach for numbing, food, screens, speed, performance, perfection. Numbing is a credit card with no grace period. Tomorrow's pain includes today's fee. You reach for explanation, karma, fate, cosmic lessons. Explanations can be morphine or poison. They help until they make you chase a reason instead of doing the next merciful thing. Clean suffering is the hurt that belongs to the event, the wound, the loss, the aftermath. Dirty suffering is the pile-on, avoidance, self-accusation, comparison, secret theatrics performed for a crowd that isn't here. You cannot always reduce the clean part. You can starve the dirty part. Several truths help, though none comfort perfectly. 1, capacity is not granted, it is built. You get stronger at holding hurt by holding some, on purpose, with form. Hard conversations you don't avoid. Workouts that stop you just short of quitting. Small fasts from your favorite anesthetics. You are not auditioning for misery. You are teaching your nervous system that waves can pass through without tearing the house down. 2, attention changes shape. Pain grows in fog and shrinks in focus. Name its edges: throb, burn, ache, sharp, dull, wave, grip. Count the seconds of an urge. Walk a square with your eyes, corner, 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 while breathing low and slow. You are not defeating pain. You are refusing to make it the only thing in the room. 3, do not suffer alone if together is available. Isolation turns hurt into verdict. Let one person witness without trying to fix you. Give them a script. I don't need advice. Please sit, listen, and remind me I am not crazy. When none are near, write the witness you need. Paper is a softer wall than your skull. 4, ritual makes weight liftable. Suffering hates form. Give it 1. Same chair, same mug, same 10 slow breaths, same 3 lines in a journal at the same time each day. Ritual does not cure, it corrals. It tells the body we have a way to enter and exit this room. 5, comparison is counterfeit relief. Others have it worse. Is a muzzle that looks like maturity. It does not make you brave, it makes you quiet and resentful. Gratitude is different. It says this hurts and this helps. Both can be true in one breath. 6, keep a task you can finish while you hurt. A sink you can clear, a page you can fill, a walk you can complete around the block. Completed loops put friction on the slide into despair. Something ends well today, even if not the thing I wanted. 7, choose your pain when you can. There are prices you will pay regardless. Prefer the ones that buy you dignity. Tell the truth when a lie would be cheaper. Rest before collapse. End the relationship that preserves your image and erodes your life. Selected pain is still pain, but it does not humiliate you. Suffering also wears masks. Sometimes it calls itself identity, the strong one, the martyr, the misunderstood genius. Sometimes it calls itself destiny. This is who I am now. A person life happens to. Identity built from injury demands constant renewal. Let your wound be part of you, not the author. Beware the theater of meaning. Not every bruise becomes a banner. Some hurts teach, some merely take. If you cannot find a lesson, find a boundary. If you cannot find a boundary, find a witness. If you cannot find a witness, keep a promise to yourself so small it survives the storm. A practice for nights that run long. List 3 circles. Circle A, the pain I cannot change tonight. Circle B, the mess I can make smaller in 15 minutes. Circle C, the kindness I can offer someone else before I sleep. Do B, do C. Let A be a stone you place on the bedside table instead of one you hold to your throat. You fear that suffering will unmake you. It can. It also reveals the parts of you that are not negotiable, not toughness, tenderness that declined to leave, honesty that stayed expensive, humor that wasn't cheap. Suffering is not a test you pass to earn a quieter life. It is a country you will visit more than once. Pack light, bring a craft, bring a friend if you can. If you cannot, bring a ritual. When the next wave stands up, do not ask it for fairness. Check your form. Make the room smaller. Let the minutes have a job. Breathe like you intend to stay. You may not be able to make it meaningful. You can make it survivable. And sometimes on good days no one expects, make it useful. Part 12, the fear of failure. Failure is not just falling short. It is identity cracking. When you fail, it feels like the verdict is not on your effort, but on your worth. The project collapses, and in the rubble you think, maybe I collapse too. This fear begins early. Grades, games, glances from adults who tied approval to achievement. Every gold star became proof you existed correctly. Every stumble, a quiet subtraction from your value. Soon the performance wasn't about doing well, it was about survival. So you armor yourself with perfectionism. You stall until the conditions are flawless. You polish until the deadline passes. You aim only where the odds feel fixed. Better no shot than a miss recorded in public. This looks like discipline. Often it is terror in disguise. The fear sharpens because failure is visible. Success whispers, but failure announces itself. The rejection email, the empty seat, the awkward silence. You imagine everyone cataloging your defeat. In truth, most are busy rehearsing their own. but perception magnifies. Shame is a megaphone only you can hear. Here is the hidden cruelty. Fear of failure breeds the failure you fear. Inaction guarantees loss. Avoidance starves talent. You trade the chance of a bruise for the certainty of stagnation. The scoreboard still shows 0. There is another way to carry it. Start with scale. Not, did I win? But did I attempt? Measure inputs you control. Hours studied, reps logged, pitches sent. Outputs may wobble, but effort compounds invisibly. Repetition blunts terror. The 100th attempt feels less like a referendum on identity than the first. Redefine failure's unit. A failure that teaches is tuition. A failure that humiliates but leaves you standing is training in resilience. A failure that closes a false path saves years. The only terminal failure is the one that stops the experiment entirely. Use exposure therapy in miniature. Pick stakes too small to crush you. Publish the rough draft to 10 eyes, not 1,000. Ask one person for feedback instead of waiting for the crowd. Each small survival rewrites your nervous system. I failed and I am still here. Audit your witnesses. Some people weaponize your losses, others normalize them. Keep company with the latter. Those who treat failure as weather, not destiny. Their calm will bleed into you. Give your failures clean funerals. Do not let them rot unspoken. Write the post-mortem. What happened, what didn't, what you will change. Then bury it. Do not drag the corpse into the next attempt. Above all, separate identity from outcome. Work is an extension of you. It is not the whole of you. Let craft be honest, but let self be larger. You are not your grade, your sale, your audience, your medal. These are chapters, not the book. The fear will not vanish. It shouldn't. Fear sharpens focus and humbles ego. But it does not have to govern. Step where you might slip, fail, record the lesson, stand again. Treat each attempt not as a verdict, but as rehearsal. Life is not a single performance. It is a sequence of drafts. In the end, failure is not proof you are worthless. It is proof you tried while afraid. And that is the only kind of attempt that ever mattered. Part 13. The fear of betrayal. You fear betrayal because it is not just loss. It is loss with a knife in it. Not only is something taken from you, trust, loyalty, safety, but it is taken by the very hand you placed your faith in. That double weight is what crushes. The world hurts you, and the person you leaned on to soften the blow joined in. Betrayal rewrites memory. Moments once warm curdle into evidence. The laugh, the promise, the touch, they all look staged in hindsight. You feel played not just in the present, but in the past. This is why betrayal stings longer than clean loss. Grief ends when the fact is accepted. Betrayal loops endlessly because the question, how could I have been so blind, keeps replaying. The wound is doubled, the pain of being harmed and the shame of having believed. Your nervous system learns fast. After betrayal, trust becomes expensive. You withhold, scan for signals, build walls, rehearse exits. You tell yourself you're just being careful. Sometimes you're just being haunted. But suspicion is its own betrayal. You betray the next person before they get the chance, treating them as guilty until proven innocent. You think you're preventing pain. You're also preventing intimacy. Here is the cruelty. Trust is always a gamble. To love is to hand someone the weapon that could destroy you and pray they never use it. To live without that gamble is safer, but lonelier than most people survive. So how do you carry the fear without letting it cage you? 1, audit your definitions. Betrayal is not disappointment. People fail, forget, flake. Reserve the word for deliberate breaking of trust. Call small stumbles by smaller names, or every bruise will feel like a stabbing. 2, learn to test early. Give small trusts before large ones. Notice who handles them with care. Pattern is the truest promise. 3, distinguish the betrayer from the betrayal. Someone can betray once and still be more than their worst act, or they can betray in character again and again. Learn the difference before sentencing both of you to a life sentence of suspicion. 4, build an identity outside contracts. If all your worth lives in loyalty received, betrayal will always unmake you. Keep a craft, a principle, a circle of meaning that no one else's action can erase. 5, expect the possibility. Not in paranoia, but in realism. To live among humans is to live with risk. Trust anyway, but don't confuse it with certainty. You fear betrayal because it reminds you how fragile intimacy is. You cannot make it unfragile. You can only decide the risk is worth the reality. Because yes, a hand that holds yours could also drop it. A voice that soothes you could also lie. A bond that steadies you could also break. But the alternative is worse, a life without bonds, where no one can betray you because no one can reach you. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: betrayal is not proof you should never trust. It is proof that trust is real, sharp enough to cut, strong enough to matter. And sometimes the scar left by betrayal is also proof that you survived it and can still risk being known again. Part 14. The fear of truth. You say you want truth, but what you really want is truth that flatters, truth that soothes, truth that fits the story you already live inside. Because raw truth does not comfort, it corrodes. What if the truth is that life has no meaning, that every purpose you cling to is scaffolding on an empty stage? Would you still want to know? What if the truth is that you are not free, that your choices are strings pulled by biology, culture, trauma, chance? Would you still celebrate clarity? What if the truth is that love does not last, morality is not fixed, justice never comes? Would you thank truth for being honest, or curse it for being unbearable? Philosophy has long whispered this danger. Nietzsche warned that truth stripped bare would destroy us, that illusions are not mistakes, but medicines. Camus showed that truth's verdict may be absurdity itself, leaving us with a life that cannot be justified. Even science, our proudest tool, reveals truths that hollow us, that we are accidents of evolution, that we orbit an ordinary star, that our universe will end in silence. Truth is not a friend. It is a mirror that does not bend to make you beautiful. And yet you still chase it, because ignorance is fragile, because illusions crack when pressed, because even false hope has an expiration date. You believe truth will free you. Sometimes it does. But freedom without comfort often feels like exile. The prisoner walks out of the cave and stares at the sun, and the light burns more than the chains ever did. Here's the paradox. Truth matters because it hurts. It cuts away delusion. But once the delusion is gone, you are left exposed, trembling, face to face with a world that owes you nothing. So you practice selective blindness. You keep some curtains drawn. You let a few illusions survive because you need them. And you pretend it's strategy, not fragility. Maybe that's wisdom. Maybe that's cowardice. Maybe there's no difference. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: truth does not care if you survive it. It does not bend to your needs. It does not comfort, redeem, or protect. And yet, without it, you are lost in stories you know are false. With it, you are found, but trembling. The fear of truth is the fear of being naked in a world that will never clothe you again. Part 15. The fear of fear itself. Fear begins as signal. A rustle in the dark, a shadow in the corner, a pulse that quickens before you understand why. But soon the signal becomes the whole landscape. You are no longer afraid of the thing. You are afraid of fear. Fear of fear is recursive. You notice your hands shake, and the shaking scares you more. You feel your chest tighten, and the panic doubles. The symptom becomes the threat. The body becomes its own predator. This is why anxiety feels endless, because there is no external object to conquer. You are fighting your own pulse, and every blow makes it strike harder. History shows the pattern. Public terror spreads not because the threat is everywhere, but because fear is. Markets crash because people fear a crash. Freedoms vanish because people fear freedom misused. The echo grows louder than the original sound. Here's the cruelty. Fear is not optional. It is stitched in biology. To fear nothing is to die young. So the goal is not to erase fear, it is to refuse its multiplication, to keep the first spark from becoming a wildfire. How? By naming it precisely. Not everything scares me, but this email, this bill, this room. Named fears shrink, vague ones spread like mold. By interrupting its ritual, fear thrives in avoidance, the street not walked, the word not said, the test not opened. Approach in fragments, one corner of the room. One sentence of the letter, one step closer to the shadow until the shadow blinks. By remembering that fear rides time, it borrows weight from futures that have not happened yet. Drag it back to the present, where most terrors are still hypothetical. You fear fear itself because it feels like possession, because it convinces you it will never end. But fear always ends, either in reality or in exhaustion. No wave stays tall forever. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: fear will visit again and again, but it cannot devour you unless you feed it your belief that it is final. Do not wait to be fearless. Move trembling, speak shaking, act while afraid. Fear may stay, but its crown will fall. Part 16, the fear of oblivion. Death ends the body. Oblivion ends everything else, not just breath, but memory. Not just you leaving the world, but the world leaving you. You fear the moment after the last mourner forgets your name, the day no photograph is recognized, the time when even your bloodline dissolves into strangers who don't know you ever existed. This is the long erasure. It is not dramatic. It is slow, silent, thorough. Oblivion is worse than death because it kills even the illusion of permanence. You can make peace with dying. You cannot make peace with never having mattered. The monuments crumble, the files corrupt, the voices stop repeating your stories. The earth folds over without a mark where you stood. The thought stings because it exposes the bargain you hoped was real. That memory is survival. That legacy is a second life. That by leaving a trace, you cheat the void. But history is littered with forgotten heroes, blurred geniuses, vanished kingdoms. Their legacies once shouted are whispers. Soon even the whispers fade. So you scramble to inscribe yourself, a book, a child, a foundation, a digital footprint scattered across servers. Every post a plea, let me echo. Every achievement a stone placed against the tide. But oblivion is patient. It does not fight you, it waits, and time is always longer than your defenses. Here is the cruelty. You do not even need to die to taste it. Oblivion visits early, the friends who no longer remember your presence in their lives, the work erased by a newer version, the place you once lived, now a stranger's home. Pieces of you vanish daily while you are still alive. So how do you live beside this fear? You cannot outrun it, but you can shrink the battlefield. Stop fighting to be remembered everywhere, forever. Fight to be undeniable somewhere for a while. Write something worth rereading in one person's hands. Shape a skill into someone else's muscle memory. Say a sentence that becomes part of another's vocabulary. Small immortality is still immortality, and then release the rest. Because the void does not negotiate, and spending your short years begging it for mercy is to live dead already. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: oblivion waits for all. But significance is not in how long you are remembered. It is in how alive you made the time you were here. The void will win, but before it does, you still get to write, to build, to touch, to love. And those moments, though doomed to vanish, are no less real for being temporary.